Really excited to dive into the basics of the checkbook IRA. And do you know why we call it the checkbook IRA blueprint?
I would love to know.
Well, I would love to tell you. So, really, with the checkbook IRA, we call it this checkbook IRA blueprint because you truthfully are the architect of your retirement investing. You can design the plan and the strategy that best fits your needs. So, with that being said, are you ready to dive in?
We are. Let's dive
All right.
in. See. There we go. So I think before we really talk about what checkbook IRA is, we should really define what a self-directed IRA is. And I'm sure most of our attendees today on this webinar live training already has a concept of what self-directed IRAs is. But just to briefly go over it, Brianna, what a self-directed IRA is, everyone knows what an IRA is, in an individual retirement account. We have a lot of brokerages out there, Charles Schwab, Fidelity, Merrill Lynch, that has self-directed IRAs, but their concept of self-directed IRAs is you'll have three buckets, whether it's ETFs, mutual funds, you pick self-direction. But a true self-directed IRA is an IRA where you can direct the IRA to be invested into alternative investments. So going beyond Wall Street, right? Going into real estate, going into private credit, going into precious metals, going into cryptocurrency, going into different asset classes that you believe in that will diversify your retirement portfolio. So we speak a lot on this subject, and we always like to talk about what is a self-directed IRAs because it's something a lot of people are still starting to understand. And it's great.
Mhm.
It's coming more and more on like news and media now with new executive
Yeah,
orders going out,
absolutely.
where retirement money can be like put into alternative investment is, but
Oh, yeah.
lesser known fact, you've been able to do this since 1975.
Yes, self-directed IRAs have been here, while it may be new to, the general population, I'll say, or most. This is not a novel concept to some.
It's not a novel
Yeah.
concept to us, and that's why we pride ourselves in having these educational sessions where we can bring these concepts to you. But take it a little further. What else can you do here to really leverage this concept and take control of your retirement? Before we go a little further, I also want to go over one of the most asked questions regarding Madison Trust Company and Broad Financial, right? What is the relationship between the two? And I always like to tell people Madison Trust Company is your self-directed IRA custodian. So Madison Trust is the company that's going to protect the tax advantage of your IRA. Madison Trust is going to be the custodian you deal with to make that investment into that real estate property you want, right? Or that private credit deal you want to get into. When you want to take distributions out, it's Madison Trust. Madison holds your IRA. So what is Broad Financial then, right? Broad
Mhm.
Financial is the company that sets up a very special product, an asset called Checkbook Control or IRA LLC or IRA Trust for the Madison clients between the two companies.
Mhm.
It's really sister companies. And of course, Broad Financial also sets up solo 401ks, but we have a different live training to discuss about solo 401ks. Today, we want to really dive into what is checkbook control and how can you leverage checkbook control to really grow your retirement portfolios.
Yeah, absolutely. I do want to mention that we did have a webinar last week on solo 401ks for Broad Financial, which will be up and running on our webinar replays page in about 2 weeks.
Look
So,
at that.
um, very well timed that you happened to mention that. But as Donna had mentioned, we were on the last slide. What can you invest in? So really, I would say more so the question is what can't you
Yeah.
invest in? So really it's a wide variety of what you can invest in. You've got real estate, whether that's, a real estate fund like a syndication, or it could be a physical, tangible property, multifamily property. There's so many different avenues you could take with real estate. Private businesses, precious metals, tax liens, promissory notes, and really where it says other IRS permitted assets, it's very, very expansive. We've seen what Arabian
We have
racehorses,
everything cattle,
cattle, livestock,
marinas, yachts,
yeah,
movies.
yeah, movies. I think a play of some sort,
Yeah,
like a production.
Broadway.
So it's really, really expansive, the list of what you can invest in with the self-directed IRA.
Absolutely. And we should definitely talk a little bit about what you can't invest in because that list is less exhaustive. I had
Yeah.
this conversation on a earlier today. We had another training, and the list really is S corporations, collectibles, and life insurance. So the IRS does not permit you to invest into these three categories. And of course, anything legal. This question did come up. There are certain things that is legal statewide, however, still
Right.
federally illegal. For instance, a question that has been asked is cannabis farms, right?
Mhm.
Statewide, it is legal in some states. Federally, it's still illegal. So this is something that your retirement money cannot be invested into.
Absolutely.
Alrighty. What is self-directed checkbook IRA? People get it a little confused because of the term checkbook IRA. Is it a different type of IRA? So there's traditional Roth checkbook. Actually, it's really, I like to say it's a more amped up, a beefed up type of IRA where you have more control.
Mhm.
So the types of IRAs will always remain the same. We have traditional, Roth, SEP, simple, and inherited, right? But within those, you have multiple ways you can invest. You can either directly invest through the custodial model, which is directly through your IRA, or you can upgrade to a checkbook IRA, which is basically within your IRA, there's going to be a different asset class. So instead of it being real estate, private credit, crypto, or any other alternative investment, you'll see an IRA LLC. What is an IRA LLC? A limited liability company where the operating agreement will have special provisions, retirement regulation provisions that protects your retirement money, so you still have the tax advantage of your retirement money. So you have your Madison Trust IRA. Within that, underneath that is the asset IRA LLC. This IRA LLC is like a limited liability company, Brianna.
Mhm.
It also has a checking account, a bank checking account associated with. We actually work with Titan Bank, and
Mhm.
some of our viewers might ask today why Titan Bank, because not all banks are checkbook IRA friendly, and Titan Bank
Exactly.
has made sure they understand the regulations associated with self-directed IRAs as well as checkbook IRAs, and they are able to service our clients to the best service you can provide. So that's fantastic. So self-directed IRA. Within it, there's an asset class, an IRA LLC. You have a bank account associated with it. So that means, like say you set up your IRA. From your IRA, we wire the money to your checking account associated with your LLC, IRA LLC. Now you have checkbook control to write a check, send a wire to that investment. Any investment of your choosing, of course, IRS permitted approved investments, right? And that's how you get the name Checkbook IRA. Why? Because you get that control. And a lot of people love this structure because they have that freedom to be able to make multiple investments simultaneously. And you have access to that funds immediately to make that investment. So you don't have that risk of losing a deal because that timeline is a little too
Mhm.
tight.
Yeah, you already have those funds in that dedicated checking account and you have real-time access to them. Simply write a check, send a wire directly to your investment, and you're there in a timely manner. There's no need for the holdup of, any sort of processing times. You're truly, truly in control. I know we say with the self-directed IRA, you're in control. Of course you are. But with the checkbook IRA, it's like you said, it's sort of the upgraded
It's
version.
absolutely the upgraded version. When I speak with a client and the client is already telling me, well, Donna, I have 3 real estate deals I want to get into. I want to get into precious metals. I'm also thinking about crypto. Immediately, I always encourage them, hey, it's not required that you upgrade it to a checkbook IRA, but by the sound of it, you're already planning multiple investments.
Mhm.
And this might be a great avenue for you because you want to be able to do these investments pretty expedited, but
Mhm.
also be able to make multiple investments whenever a good investment comes your way. And that's what Checkbook IRA does. With Broad Financial, we do offer two options of different models of checkbook IRA so that our clients have different options, right? One is, of course, the tried and true, very popular IRA LLC. The other one is an IRA trust if a client just wishes to have something, but not to the same level as an
Mhm.
IRA LLC. And we will be talking about the differences further down, right?
Yeah, yeah, it'll be
Perfect.
coming up. All right. But before we get into that, why would someone consider the checkbook IRA structure? So as Donna and I have both spoken about, it's that real-time investing without the need to go through your custodian for your day-to-day transactions. You, like we said, you can write a check, send a wire right then and there, and boom, it's right to your investment. So you have that real time investing, that access, and that control. Another thing is potential cost savings. So as Donna mentioned, some people do choose to hold, multiple assets under that LLC or trust umbrella, and they're avoiding any transaction fees associated, that would typically be associated with the custodial model. So overall, if you have multiple investments, there could be some cost savings there. And in terms of, oh, we already talked about it, but you can write checks and send wires directly from that dedicated checking account, excuse me. And as Donna said, we do work with Titan Bank, and they do have a very, very deep level understanding of checkbook IRAs, and even, as we mentioned prior, checkbook solo 401ks as well. So they're our preferred banking provider.
Mhm.
And then last but not least, full investment flexibility. So the ability to invest in alternative assets while maintaining IRS compliance. So Broad Financial is very, very experienced, and it's their bread and butter setting up these IRS compliant LLC and trusts. So you know that that compliance will be maintained 15 plus years in business. So
Yeah,
we know what's going on.
absolutely. And the funny thing is, Broad Financial existed way before Madison Trust.
Yes,
And
that's right.
yeah, Broad Financial was the original company that started this beautiful journey. And then Madison Trust joined because we realized back in the day when we were creating these LLCs and trusts for clients to use different custodians, we were receiving a lot of feedback from clients that they were not getting this level of service that they required, right? Because the
Yeah.
custodian is important, hence the birth of Madison Trust, where now we are able to service our clients both on the IRA facilitation side of things as well as the custodian, because it's equally important. One thing that will be asked of us, and I know this, someone's going to ask this question from us, right? Before we jump into this, why do you need a custodian, right? Well,
Right.
you can't have a checkbook control IRA. So you can't have an IRA LLC without the custodian. The
Hmm.
custodian is going to be the vehicle to hold the IRA LLC, but not just that, give you that tax advantage. So without the custodian, you're not going to get your investment returns, your profits, capital gain without that tax deferred or tax free status, depending on the type of IRA you set up.
Hmm.
So very important. But I know this question is going to come up later as well because
Yeah.
a it's one of those usual questions.
Yeah, it's a big question. People might wonder why you need both, and now you know why.
And who might checkbook control be right for? And I can't emphasize this enough. This is not a requirement.
Mhm.
You can always set up an IRA, make some investment, get a better understanding of how self-directed IRAs work. Because I know sometimes it sounds very complex. When I first got into this industry about 6, 7 years ago, for me it was like, wait, this does sound complex. And my background was financial analysis, and it still was a lot. So we do have clients who prefer not to jump into everything.
Yeah.
They prefer to go step at a time, make your first real estate purchase using your self-directed IRA, learn the process, then upgrade. When you are considering the upgrade, whether you're starting it right off the bat, checkbook control, or upgrading an existing account, you want to ask yourself a few questions, right?
Mhm.
Are you a hands-on investor? Are you seeking control? And that is the whole point of self-directed IRAs. You want more control. But like you said, Brianna, earlier, checkbook control is that next level up with control. You want to have
Mhm.
control where you're able to make investments decisions almost simultaneously. You could get a deal in the morning, you want to close it later that day. When and with the checkbook control, you have that because full transparency, right? With the custodian, we have our processes, we have
Yeah.
documentation we need to review before we can approve a certain investment in an
Mhm.
IRA. So that lag time is avoided when you
Mhm.
have that checkbook control. Someone who invests in assets that require quick actions. We've seen tax liens that require quick action. We've
Mhm.
seen some real estate deal where the closing is happening within 2 days, and you really need to get in or put that bid in, right? You need to send that earnest money deposit in. Checkbook IRA is perfect. You can write that check, right? It is also for an account holder who prefers fewer delays and want more. Like I said, we always go back to control because that's really what checkbook control provides. And my favorite is for someone who doesn't want to pay those transactional fees. Madison Trust prides ourselves in flat rated fees, but then there are certain transactional fees, right?
Mhm.
And if you're an avid investor and you're one of those investors who have multiple assets, right? And we're talking three, four, five, six, seven, and it goes on. You don't want to be paying these back and forth fees. At that point, a checkbook IRA is absolutely recommended and encouraged because you will be saving money in the long term.
Mhm.
Absolutely. And this is always other questions I ask a client when they're asking, is checkbook control right for me? Is an IRA LLC right for me? Ask yourself this. Do you want control? Do you want access to your retirement fund so you can quickly jump into action when there is an investment? And do you want to avoid the additional transaction fees? Then checkbook control is right for you.
Yeah, then that would be your answer there. All right. So as we were talking about before, there are two different ways that we can access checkbook control. I know these really point out the differences, but I wanted to just run through some similarities first. So as Donna mentioned early, both the IRA LLC and IRA trust structures are available in traditional Roth, SEP, simple, or inherited. It's really the bones and the heart of it. It is a self-directed IRA. The IRA LLC or trust is just the asset held within simply. So just dependent upon the IRA you'd want, that you'd set up and you'd pick that at the point of the IRA application. Then there's those real-time access to funds that we've been talking about, excuse me. So both accounts do offer that access via that dedicated checking account, avoiding those everyday transaction fees that are typically associated with the custodial model. And they're both available in all 50 states, which is great across the good old USA.
Absolutely.
So in terms of the differences here, so really with the first point with the IRA LLC, simply put, it's just an LLC that's formed underneath the umbrella of your IRA. Whereas with a trust is created, and Broad Financial handles that and all the paperwork there. In terms of documentation, things are a little bit different. The IRA LLC does require more documentation. There's state filings and all things that you need to consider: the operating agreement, articles of organization, all that good stuff to set up the LLC. But with the trust, there is a little bit more simplified documentation there. Again, differences in the checking account. So the checking account would be in the name of your LLC associated with the IRA if you're going the IRA LLC structure, and the checking account through the trust would be associated in the trust's name. And last but most certainly not least, there are typically state fees required with the IRA LLC.
Mhm.
So there could be those added costs there and, potentially state franchise tax as well. But with the IRA trust, it typically is a little bit more cost effective, as there aren't those state filing fees or renewals. So just things that you may want to consider, if you're choosing which account to set up.
As soon as you said state franchise tax, California ran into my mind. Just saying.
Are we going into the California thing or?
Definitely. But
All right.
something else I also wanted to mention is when you guys are trying to decide between the IRA, LLC, or trust format, things that have come up, right? Um, State-specific regulations. There are
Mhm.
certain states, so if you are a real estate investor, state-specific regulation is very, very important. Now, of course, we're passive custodian, so well, we're passive. The Madison Trust is a passive custodian. Broad Financial doesn't provide any tax, legal, or investment advice. Therefore, we recommend you speak with your attorneys or CPAs as well. But something to keep in mind that we've seen is state-specific regulations, especially for real estate investing.
Mm.
There are certain states that does not encourage real estate acquisitions using trusts. So you might want to take a look at that too when you're trying to consider whether it's an LLC or a trust when it comes to state specific regulation. Another thing, these are like the big bullet items that I always speak when it comes with
Yeah.
clients, and that's why I always want to bring it up to everyone's attention is when you need a loan when it comes to real estate, when you're using your retirement money, it cannot be a conventional mortgage. We have to use a special loan called a non-recourse loan. And non-recourse loans are typically easier when you're using an IRA LLC versus an IRA trust,
Mhm.
right? And of course, multi-member. I know we were going to talk about this, so briefly,
Excited now.
briefly dipping our toes into this. If you want to create one of these entities with multiple people, right? Whether it's your traditional and Roth account or you and a bunch of friends, IRA LLC offers that option of multi-members versus IRA trust does not. A trust cannot have multiple members like an IRA LLC can. So that's another consideration. And of course, liability protection. Limited liability company
Hmm.
provides liability protection against certain legal liability more than an IRA trust. So really, when you are sitting down to make that consideration, what works best for you, those are some things you want to know. On the plus side, setting up an IRA trust is much easier, like Brianna said, versus an IRA LLC because there is no state filing. If there is no state filing, there is no state fees. That's another thing, right?
Yeah, you save on some costs there.
Yeah, you save on some costs, and typically, IRA trust setups much faster versus an IRA LLC because we're not
Yeah.
dependent on the state. Some states are 24 hours, and some states take forever.
Truthfully out of our control with the processing time of the states, but it is just something that we do factor into the process when we'll go over timing a little bit later.
Absolutely. And I'm sure when we're talking about this, you all might have a lot of questions with regard to what best fits you, right? LLC or trust. Please, we have a fantastic team of experts at Broad Financial. Set up a call. You are not obligated to set up anything, but we always encourage to give us a call. Ask the questions, walk us through what your scenario is, investment scenario is, so that we can tell you, hey, these are the options you have, and these are the pros and cons of both. The IRA LLC option. Want to walk us through how do you set up an IRA LLC and what is involved in setting up an IRA LLC, Brianna?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So we actually do get into the process slightly later. Sorry, but really, essentially, this sort of points back a little bit more detailed of what we went over in the last slide. But really, the difference between the IRA LLC and IRA trust option. So, Broad creates that specialized IRS compliant LLC. You'll receive an operating agreement and oh my gosh, and support documents. You'll create a checking account in the name of that LLC through our good friends at Titan Bank, and you'll gain control over those IRA transactions.
And I want to talk a little bit about the operating agreement because we've seen a lot of clients try to create the operating agreement on their own, and there has been compliance issues because the operating agreement really is that the heart of this whole entity, this whole different asset class, right? And not a lot of people are well versed in understanding how this operating agreement needs to be set up. Hence, why
Yeah.
there is Broad Financial in existence, because that's Broad's entire expertise and specialization
Oh, yeah.
in creating these operating agreements so that not only are you compliant with the IRS, your retirement money is protected, and you are having this tax advantage. So this operating agreement is not the operating agreement of a commercial limited liability company. This operating agreement has certain IRS regulations with regard to retirement money, right? It talks about prohibited transaction code 4975. It talks about IRC code 408 that talks about retirement money, how to deal with retirement money. It talks about non-compensated managers, because that's, I know we're going to be talking about it a little later. You are the manager of your IRA LLC, but the member or the owner of your IRA LLC is your IRA.
Mhm.
So there's a clear differentiation,
Very important
right?
distinction.
Very important distinction. But as the manager, you are very clearly defined as a non-compensated manager, and that's very important because you cannot get compensated through your IRA, because that's when the disqualified individuals and prohibited
Mhm.
transaction come into place. And this operating agreement clearly outlines that. So anyone who reads the operating agreement will know what can you do and what you shouldn't do when it comes to your retirement money in your IRA
Mhm.
LLC.
Very, very
Oh,
important.
very,
Very, very important.
so
Yeah.
important. And then, of course, we have the IRA trust option.
Yes, which, as we mentioned before, no state registration or filing fees. And now we get a little bit into the setup time. So it is typically a little bit faster. And as we mentioned before, that's really due to the state timing. We don't know how long it's going to take necessarily. Like Donna said, some of them are open 24/7, some of them have different hours. So really it just depends upon the state in which you're going to be setting up that LLC. And like we said, simplified document requirements, which will make ongoing maintenance a little bit easier.
Now, I have to mention this too. Now, I know I spoke about the operating agreement in IRA LLCs. The trust documentation does also mention have the same legalese and language to protect your retirement money. So it's not that it's only in the LLC and not in the trust, but the operating agreement with the LLC, again, limited liability protection, right?
Mhm.
So a lot of people do have that preference. But then when you need to do things faster and you want to avoid those state franchise tax, right? I was
Yeah.
talking about California earlier. The IRA trust option comes into play and it's a fantastic option. It's
Mhm.
cost savings, it is more expert, like faster, and it still works. Again, at the end of the day, it's up to you to figure out what are your criteria and
Mhm.
what best fits you. And then you have the choice between the LLC and the trust.
Yeah.
But since we have been talking a lot of things about the do's and the don'ts, important considerations.
Absolutely. I want to say I know it starts out with important, but dare I say this is probably the most important slide
It's
of the presentation.
absolutely. And I think with anything that we do education wise, Broad Financial, we want to always talk about these important considerations because with great freedom and control comes great responsibility. And here's the top things we really want to always say: more active oversight. When you have full control of your retirement money, like you do through Checkbook IRAs, you, as the account holder, are responsible for keeping records. So Madison Trust, as the custodian, doesn't see what happens within the LLC and does not keep the records other than the
Mhm.
fact there is an LLC and the valuations that you provide as the LLC manager to us at the year end. So you should be very good at the bookkeeping on the IRA LLC or IRA trust side of things.
Absolutely. All of those transactions, that bookkeeping, that's all on the IRA owner as the
Absolutely.
non-compensated manager
Mhm.
or the trustee, dependent upon which account type you
Mhm.
go with.
And then we're going to talk about a little bit about prohibited transaction. Don't be worried. I know the name sounds very drastic, prohibited transaction.
It really does. I do feel like they could have given it a better name.
Knowing the IRS, they're always it's always going to sound a little drastic, doom and gloom a little bit, but for rightful reasons, right?
Mhm.
A prohibited transaction, just to define that, it's not what you invest in, it's who you transact with. So there are certain individuals called disqualified people. Those are the people you cannot transact with. You yourself as an account holder is disqualified. Your
Mhm.
spouse, your children, your parents, they're all disqualified to the IRA and any investments within the IRA. So that means even if you have an IRA LLC, you cannot buy a house through your LLC and then let your children live in it.
Mhm.
That could constitute for a prohibited transaction. So, also my another one that always gets asked, and I always love this one. Hey Donna, can I loan myself money? Unfortunately, you cannot. So, whenever you're not sure, we have amazing resources both on Broad Financial site as well as Madison Trust site about prohibited transactions and disqualified individuals. If ever you're unsure if you're about to get transact with the disqualified individuals, please give Madison Trust a call. We have a again great expert trained
Mhm.
specialist that can understand what your situation is and let you know if it is considered a disqualified person or not, because it's really guidance, it's not advice, but we are able to guide you on what the
Mhm.
IRS permits and doesn't.
Very good point. And what I like to remember and to try to simplify things with disqualified persons is a pretty good rule of thumb is any lineal ascendants or descendants. So lineal up in the family tree or lineal down in the family tree, or any other closely held entities too. Um, Very important to be mindful of that because there could be potential situations where that could constitute a prohibited transaction.
Absolutely. And then of course entity management, which basically goes back to more active oversight, right? So before, if you were just investing through your Madison Trust IRA, the investor, subscriber, purchaser, the titling would be Madison Trust Company, Brianna, full benefit of Brianna Rogers, your account number.
Oh.
But now, because your investments are going through your checkbook IRA, which is either your IRA LLC or IRA Trust, it's going to be the name. So if your IRA LLC's name is Brianna123 LLC, all of your investments, that's the name on it. So if you
Mhm.
buy property, Brianna, the name of the purchaser on the purchasing contract, all of the closing documents, it's going to be Brianna123 LLC, not your name personally,
Mhm.
not the IRA's titling, it's the LLC's titling. So, and you as the non-compensated manager will be basically conducting all the review of the documentation, signature of the paperwork, just in general, the communication between the IRA LLC and the investment sponsors, all the attorneys, and all
Mhm.
that fun stuff. And then, of course, some tax implications may apply. UBIT, UDFI, unrelated business income tax, doesn't happen often. We do have a training session. I believe we did something earlier this year, which we went
Yeah.
more deeper into UBIT and UDFI. But if you have questions on, again, if you there is UBIT or UDFI triggers, like I said, doesn't happen often, feel free to go through that webinar on our webinar replays page. And of course, due diligence cannot be said enough.
Mhm.
Regardless of how you're investing, whether through your IRA or IRA LLC, do the due diligence, because Madison Trust, as the custodian, only does a due diligence to ensure if the retirement money can be invested. We do not provide a risk analysis. We are not
Yeah.
fiduciary.
Exactly. It's really more so the compliance that we conduct is if it's feasible to be held in the IRA, and we're governed at the Madison Trust side of things by the South Dakota Division of Banking. So really, is it allowable there?
Absolutely. And of course, there are many other considerations when it comes to uh, utilizing an IRA LLC to take control of your retirement money and invest. So, if you have a question, please let us know. You can, of course, drop it in the chat as well, or you can set up a call with one of our experts and they'll be happy to understand what your investment scenario is and how you work. But I always tell clients, if you're unsure, give us a call and ask, because the last
Mhm.
thing you want to do is do something that takes the tax advantage out of your
Mhm.
retirement money, right? And we want to protect the retirement money because retirement money is so valuable, especially nowadays.
Oh,
Um,
yeah,
it- we are
absolutely.
going into a retirement crisis, especially with how many people don't save for retirement money. So, whatever we have saved for retirement money, we want to save it
Yeah, we
and
want to
protect
save
it.
it, potentially maximize it. It's very true. Slight personal anecdote, but before I started working here, it's actually going to be coming up on 4.5 years. I can't believe I'm saying that. But I, of course, knew what an IRA was roughly, but I didn't really know as much about retirement investing as I do
Hmm.
now. And I have to say that is invaluable, which I always think invaluable, but it means very valuable. It's truthfully so valuable to know. So even just to build the awareness around that, start, as soon as you can, and save, 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 because you never truly know.
Absolutely. And then take advantage of different structures like this, right? Where
Yeah.
you can, like you said, grow your retirement. It's not about preserving wealth. At this point, it's about growing your wealth. And
Oh,
a
yeah.
part of growing your wealth is investing, diversifying your retirement portfolio outside of stocks and bonds. Don't get me wrong. I myself have stocks and bonds.
Yeah.
I'm a big
Likewise.
believer of stocks
Yeah.
and bonds, but I'm also a big believer in alternative investments, real estate, precious metals, any type of alternative investments that
Hmm.
can hedge against inflation, against the volatility, but then assets, products like this, where it gives you more control. How fantastic, because a few years ago, if you told me that I would be able to access my retirement money to make decisions to grow it, I would have taken it in a heartbeat.
Yeah, yeah, it's very true. And it's wonderful that we have programs like these to build the awareness around it and really just have people understand and learn what they can potentially do with their
Absolutely.
retirement investing. I didn't know any of this existed.
Exactly.
It's
And that's why we have
it's
this
amazing.
live training session. But Brianna, give us the $1 million question here, right? How does it work? If we are interested, how do you get started?
Oh, of course, of course. So really, it's a beautiful thing that we work for both sister companies, and we've streamlined the process and boiled it down to really simplify things, make it streamlined so that you can get your investments up and running as quickly as possible. So first, you'll open a self-directed IRA with our sister company, Madison Trust, by completing the application on their end. That's on their website, madisontrust.com. In the top menu bar, open an account. So then you'll fund your self-directed IRA, how you'd prefer. It could be transfer from another IRA, rollover from another qualified retirement plan, or you can make an initial contribution if you so choose. Then from there, you'll be guided over to Broad Financial, who will create that LLC or trust. Now, that's dependent upon what you want. So definitely do your due diligence in that. Research whether the LLC or the trust may be right for you if you're looking to upgrade to checkbook control. And the other thing I'll say too, which Donna pointed out, is that you don't necessarily have to do that right now. If you're not looking for checkbook control right now, Could I do that even 3 years down the line?
Absolutely. At any point in your journey with Madison Trust, you're able to upgrade it. And then you can decide whether it is an IRA, LLC, or IRA trust.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Wanted to emphasize that point. Doesn't have to be now, could be in the future. Then thereafter, a Titan Bank checking account will be opened in your entity's name, whether that's LLC or trust. Then you'll instruct Madison Trust to send your IRA funds to that dedicated checking account. So that is a transaction that does happen through Madison Trust. But once the funds are in that checking account, you can start investing by writing a check, sending a wire directly to your investment. And that's really it. I mean, this is as simple as it is, as simple as it gets. You've got the trifecta, I like to call it, through Madison Trust, Broad Financial, and Titan
Titan
Bank.
Bank.
Really for checkbook control. I like that, the trifecta of checkbook control.
I like that.
Yeah.
We're gonna definitely see a post about that. The trifecta of checkbook control. I can't wait.
Stay tuned on Broad Financial socials.
Now, why Broad Financial, right? We touched on this briefly, but really because Broad Financial, we have 15 plus years of experience in this. This is our bread and butter. This is what we do. And we ensure that our clients get the best level of service because we also then have our sister company, Madison Trust. Transparent pricing and no asset-based holding fees. So I want to briefly touch on the pricing. The pricing is also available in the Broad Financial website. Of course, there's a one-time setup fee for both IRA LLCs and IRA trusts. For IRA LLCs, the pricing is $12.95. For trust is $11.95. Now, for LLCs, there is a registered agent fee of $125, and that's what gives you the ability to set up an IRA LLC to any 50 states, even if you don't reside in that state, which is a beautiful thing because we're all aware, and I'm not going to name names, some states are much more business friendly than other states, right? I might have named a state before earlier in the conversation. So, and we like to give our clients that freedom to decide which state they really want to, but that's really all the fees associated with setting up the IRA LLC. After that, we're not going to charge. Broad Financial doesn't charge additional fees on top of it. If you have a question with regard to, like, say, your IRA LLC or trust setup, Broad Financial support team will be there to assist. And I must emphasize on this, personalized US-based support. We really pride ourselves in our customer service. You can take a look at our reviews, but something why clients come to us is because of our customer service, and we always make sure you have a live rep that is able to assist you.
It is very true, and they are all right out there as as I'm pointing. No, both of us were in the same office space. We do have our South Dakota
Yes.
office as well, where we're
Right.
headquartered, and a few remote employees here and there. But really, when you call us, we will pick up the phone.
Absolutely. And when Brianna says both of us, this includes me and her, as well as Madison Trust and Broad Financial.
Yes, yes. So a whole great deal of us, a lot of us.
It is a lot of us, and the companies work very closely with each other. Seamless coordination, because something we realized, and that's how Madison Trust was born. When we have a custodian that we are able to work with so seamlessly, it's such an easy process. So
Oh,
a
yeah.
client sets up their IRA with Madison Trust, sets up their LLC with Broad Financial. Broad Financial completes the LLC setup, sends over the documentation to Madison Trust, and that's it. And if something happens, if there is anything that comes up between the two companies, the client will be notified, and
Oh, yeah.
that's a beautiful process.
Oh, yeah.
Alrighty.
So if you scan the QR code with that nice, lovely green border, Broad Financial Green, we like to call it, you could speak with a Broad Financial specialist today if you're looking to set up an account. And if you are already a client of ours, we actually have a refer a friend program if you are aware. So you can refer a friend to us and you'll earn $100. And we get this question a lot, is that a one-time thing for how many people I refer? No, it is $100 per referral. So every friend that opens and funds an account with Broad Financial, you'll receive $100.